Hi, my name is Benny Johnson. As some of you know, I've been struggling with addiction. However, I decided to change my life and went into recovery. I started this podcast 90 Days Clean, and I want to take you along in my journey. What does lie ahead of me? Let me be frank, I do not know. Will I ever drink again? I do not know. This is how Stairway to Redemption was born. It is my search for answer in a real-time process of what is going to work for me. It is then my aspiration to help you figure out what's going to work for you. It is our journey together. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Stairway to Redemption. Today, I have Amanda. Amanda is a good friend of mine. She's my partner in crime in kickboxing and working out at the gym. In addition of being a great kickboxer, she's also a nurse, and she has the very peculiar relationship with alcohol. She's type 1 diabetic. So she's gonna tell us her story and her what it is like to navigate the social space and drinking while being a type 1 diabetic. And I think that's, her input is very valuable because I don't think I've ever interviewed somebody who had a pre-existing condition like this that makes drinking being a challenge, and it's always good to hear people from different sides, from different stories. And yeah, so I give you guys Amanda. Amanda, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Started a new
Yeah.
job, getting, pretty used to it.
All right.
Time. Worked out today with Brendan. Shout out to
Yes.
Brendan.
Shout out to Brandon. We just came out for a workout, so that was good.
That one
That was challenging.
it was.
Yeah. But this leads us to our first question. For those who knows the podcast, the first question is the state of the mind address. So, what is your state of mind lately? Yeah.
State of mind. I'd say I've been um anxious because, like I said, I started this new job. So I'd say that it's been a little bit difficult for me to navigate a new nursing system and new nurses and you know I guess getting to know the hospital, but other than that, I'd say my psyche is doing okay.
All right. That's interesting. Like I never, from what I understand or what I imagine actually in my mind when I see nurses switching hospital, working to a different hospital. I'm like, for me, it's like just do nurse stuff, right? Like, how is it different? But no, the dynamic between the doctors, between your coworkers, and also learning a new system. I'm like, oh, okay, that whole change. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some hospitals have different computer systems. So
Okay.
the first hospital I was in, they used Sunrise, which is
Yeah.
totally different. And now I'm using something called Epic. And a lot of the doctors, which is so strange to me, they all use what's called Epic Chat.
Yeah.
So it's, nobody uses the phone anymore. They all text each other, which is just totally different for me.
Oh, okay. Wow, I didn't know. Like, I mean, I could imagine that people had different softwares, but I didn't know there was a chat for you guys to use. Like, that's definitely,
Totally different.
yeah. So, like, no more trying to decipher like doctor's handwriting, like that kind
Now,
of.
with telephone orders, sometimes you don't hear them. So it's kind of nice to see them write exactly what it is that they want.
Yeah, right. Because like doctors are notoriously bad for their handwritings, right? Like it's even a joke. Like there are like memes about it. Yeah. So yeah. So like I said, like what is your relationship with alcohol?
So my relationship with alcohol, I would start with when I was a teenager. Um,
Okay.
my relationship with alcohol wasn't the greatest because, like you said, I'm a type 1 diabetic.
Mm-hmm.
Just to let everyone know, type 1 diabetes is when your pancreas does not produce any insulin. So for me, I have to wear an insulin pump that injects insulin all throughout the day. Um, so for me growing up, I didn't know anyone else with type 1 diabetes. I didn't know anyone else who was drinking with diabetes. So I would say I didn't really um, take care of it as much as I wish I would have. With drinking, as you know, like sometimes people will do like vodka cranberries or vodka sodas. That's pretty detrimental when you're drinking with type 1 diabetes because it could raise your blood sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I didn't know like my limit at all. When I became a nurse, I was able to better understand my limit and also find out what kind of drinks work better for me. This way, I wasn't having any um, bad um, responses with my diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
So, I learned later on, like, do like Diet Coke, say with vodka, or do, say, a Bud Light.
Yeah.
But alcohol really masks the symptoms of low blood sugar. So sometimes you could mistake being low, having a low blood sugar, for being drunk.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
A lot of people don't know that. I mean,
Yeah.
I've had stories, where I was like out in public, or say my mom was out in public and somebody like collapsed at work, or they were slurring their speech, and right away somebody thought they were drinking on the job. And it turns out that they were a type 1 diabetic and they were having low blood sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess I'll go into what low blood sugar is just so what people know what it is.
Yeah, go on. No, please be as technical as you want because, like, I don't know much about diabetes, so I'm learning. I'm learning. So, like, when you said that the people that were had low blood sugar acted like people thought they were drunk, are the symptoms like people all look like they are like wasted or something
They
like that?
do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens is when your blood sugar reaches like a low point, so a low blood
Mm-hmm.
sugar would be considered like 70. Um, what happens is like I could start to get confused. I could start to get really anxious. I'll be really hungry. I'll start shaking. And a lot of people like mistake because you start slurring your speech.
Yeah.
They start to think like, oh, like, has this person been drinking?
Mm,
So, you know, you wouldn't really know unless you had it, or you knew someone
yeah.
who had type 1 diabetes.
Really? That's very interesting. And is there like a difference in so like what does alcohol actually do when you drink it? So let's say like you drink it, what is the problem? The problem is the mixed drinks or the alcohol itself has an effect.
It's the alcohol itself.
Mhm.
Because when you do drink, you do tend to like get lightheaded, you slur your speech when you have too much.
Mhm.
So, I would go, like, say I drink too much, I would go and I wouldn't even realize if my blood sugar was low. Or I'm
Oh,
sure like when people have like a hangover, they feel nauseous, they feel dizzy, the room is spinning.
yeah.
So like it really masks like what could be like a really dangerous low blood sugar.
Oh, okay. So if I understand it correctly, you could attribute the state, the feelings you have to being drunk when it's actually the low blood sugar that's acting. Yeah. Okay, that's dangerous because what if both are acting and you don't know? Like, yeah,
It could be like really detrimental. I mean, if it goes way too low, I could have a seizure. I could become unresponsive.
yeah,
So, you know, I have to be very, very careful when I drink. And honestly,
yeah.
like because of it, like I don't really necessarily drink that much because it winds up not being fun for me because I'm
Mm-hmm.
able to properly take care of my diabetes.
Yeah, I can only imagine that like you being forced. I mean, yeah, forced because you don't want to pass out in public like that. Also, you want to take care of yourself. That makes sense. But like, is there any difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes when it comes to drinking alcohol? Do you know?
Um, it's basically the same.
Mm-hmm.
The thing uh, that I would say is different between type 1 and type 2 is type 2, like their pancreas still semi works,
Mm-hmm.
whereas mine doesn't work at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But the
Yeah.
symptoms would be the same, because type 2 diabetics still experience low blood sugar and they also experience high blood sugar.
Mm-hmm. I see. Huh. That's interesting. But isn't I don't know, isn't alcohol, oh no, sugar is transformed into alcohol, right? That's what like the process of making alcohol is. But like in your body, like they cannot use alcohol as fuel, right?
I don't think that sugar is converted into alcohol. Um,
Yeah.
if anything, like what happens is if you mix sugar with alcohol, it could
Yeah.
do like high blood sugar, which is also something that you don't want with diabetes.
Okay, that was what I was thinking. That like sugar mixed with alcohol raise also your blood pressure, right? Your blood sugar, yeah.
Sugar, yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't want that either because like you'll have like extreme thirst, blurred vision. You'd have to like go to the bathroom regularly. It like
Mm.
causes so many different problems.
And that's still valid for a diabetic only or like for a regular person?
Just
Like with those just diabetic. So basically diabetic, they don't need to worry. Okay, so my understanding of diabetes was you only need to worry about low sugar, but you also need to worry about high sugar. So you need to stay within the range.
yeah,
Okay, I got it.
it's
Like, yeah.
range that you have to stay in. Yeah.
Sorry?
You have to stay in a very tight range.
Oh, okay. I get it. I get it. But yeah, before we talk about how you do in the ranch, do you mind talking to us about your story when you went to Europe and you had to, you had a bad trip because of, there was excessive drinking, and also, if I remember correctly, we talked about that earlier. But like, do you want to talk over what happened in that Euro trip?
So it wasn't excessive drinking. Um,
Yeah.
there were other things that were involved.
Okay.
Um, I don't mind talking about it. Um, it's a little bit of a touchy subject, but I will talk about it.
Share as much as you want. If there are things you don't want to talk about, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know.
So prior to the trip to Europe, I was like going through some anxiety and some depression.
Mm,
I was having a tough time with um starting a new job. It was like a very big change for me that I wasn't ready for. One thing I was worried about was my diabetes because I wasn't going to be on insurance for a little bit. Um, so prior to the trip, um, I wound up like going like days without sleeping and wound up having to, you know, see a doctor to, figure out like how I could like start falling back asleep again. And, they prescribed me medication. And when they prescribed me the medication, I took it, but then I had to follow up with another doctor. Wound up going on this trip, didn't follow up with the doctor, and wound up partying for hours on end in Ibiza, and wound up going without sleep again. So I wound up having to be hospitalized for multitudes of reasons, but one of them being my diabetes because there's a time difference in
Mm-hmm.
Ibiza. So my insulin pump was still on like American time.
Oh shit.
So I wound up like going into like what's called like DKA, which is diabetic ketoacidosis,
Mm-hmm.
where your body basically shuts down and your like organs like stop basically working. You start like
Oh,
feeling protein in your urine and like you start throwing up and vomiting. You can't keep anything down. So I wound up like hallucinating because of how high my blood sugar was. Like they wound up having to like rush me to the emergency department and, you know, had to come home and wind up being hospitalized here too.
that's insane. Like, so the trip was cut short, basically. I mean, for obvious reason, but I like something as like the pump insulin not being scheduled or giving the time differences and those multiple reason that makes like I don't know, like traveling like a challenge, like like for you need to like I guess I would say that like for you traveling involves a lot of like preparation, right? You cannot just go get up and take a plane and go to Europe like most people could. You cannot just like backpack to Europe.
Oh, I wish. I mean, does come with a lot of preparation. And one thing that a lot of people who are healthy like don't have to worry about is like carrying these medications that need to
Yeah.
be at a specific room temperature, in order for it to work. So a lot of these places in Europe, like they're very big on like, you know, um, keeping the ocean clean and um, not using too much energy and stuff. So a lot of the times, like if you didn't have your card like in the hotel like slip, I don't know what it's called. Like it turns the lights on and off. If you didn't have
Yeah.
it physically in there, it would shut off like every single electronic in the room, including
Oh.
the refrigerator.
Oh.
So my insulin was going bad because one, it's the summertime, and two, everything's melting in the refrigerator. So, people don't have to worry about that. My sister is hanging out on the beach, having fun, and I'm like, oh my God, I hope my insulin's like working in the fridge. You know what I mean?
That's insane. Like, I mean, I heard of those like power saving like things that they do, like turning off the lights on the timer or something like that. But about the fridge and like every electronic outlets, that's nuts. Like, yeah, I mean, yo, that's I commend you. I mean, I get what and that coupled with everyday life, like let's say like you're anxious about a new job or like, maybe some relationships or like anxiety that we all have, depression that sometimes we all have. The combination is like basically a double whammy, right? Like how you manage that.
To be honest, like it took some time for me to be able to
Mm-hmm.
manage it. I feel like it was more managed when I did start the job and like I started like getting things moving. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I usually manage it by working out. Like that's my biggest, you know, relaxation.
Yeah.
Whether it's going for a walk or, taking classes at the gym.
Yeah, and that's where I believe that you and I we're friends now because like the importance of what like working out and the gym is to us. And yeah.
It's a big help.
Yeah. Like before I go back to the gym and what it does for us, did you do you take other medication in addition of what you have for your diabetes?
I do take other medication.
Uh-huh.
You know, sometimes I take stuff for anxiety now. Now that like that whole thing happened, like,
Yeah.
um, but other than that, no.
Yeah. And do you have still to watch out? Do they interact with each other, or like they don't interact with each other, those medications?
No, they don't interact with each other.
Yeah, that's good. Thank God, because I didn't know if you still had to, play with dosage of other medication because you had diabetes, you were type 1 diabetic, like that. At least that's positive, But going back to the gym, um unfortunately there is a new wave of like people using diabetic medicine to like, especially Ozempic. I'm sure you're aware of it,
Right.
to lose weight. You who need your medicine, who need your insulin, who need all of it, what is your position? How do you feel when you see those people doing that?
Um, I mean, they do pay like an arm and a leg to get this medication, and
Yeah.
Ozempic is usually used for type 2 diabetics.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm okay with it. They're not like taking away from like me needing the medication.
Yeah.
So I'm all right with it. I do, however, believe that like insulin prices are absolutely ridiculous, especially for someone
Yeah.
living with type 1 diabetes. Like, if you don't have like the right insurance, your insulin could cost you like more than $100 like a month. And that's just for insulin alone. Sometimes people are paying like $1,000 just to like wear like the insulin glucose monitor so they don't have to like prick their fingers like 5, 6, 7 times a day, which I think is
Okay.
like very unfair.
That's crazy. What do you have? I saw your perm. So like you have a monitor, right?
I do. I
Mon-
wear 2.
okay.
One, the bigger sized one, is my insulin pump.
Okay.
That's the one that gives me insulin all throughout the day. And then
Mm-hmm.
the smaller one is connected by Bluetooth, and it shows me my blood sugars on my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's cool about that, I'm gonna get a little nerdy. I could share
Yeah.
my sugars with like my family, and like
Yes.
sometimes when I'm like in a relationship, like if I like them enough, or if they like me enough, they'll follow me. Like, hey, your blood sugar's high. You might want to, give yourself some insulin. Hey, your blood sugar's low. Make sure you're drinking juice.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Oh, I remember a day very specifically. Your blood sugar was low, and it just hit the alarm. And I was like, "What's that?" Oh, she was like, "It's my pump." And like within a minute, your mom called you,
Right.
and I was like, "What? That's pretty cool." And she was like, "Yeah, are you okay? Are you alright? Is everything okay?" Like,
Right.
that's actually pretty cool because, like, I mean, before all that technology, it was definitely wait, what were people doing back in the day before all that technology? You had to prick your finger every day?
Yeah, so it got so much better. Some people were using like these dipsticks for their urine to test their urine, their blood sugar. That was like
Okay.
back in the day. And then for my generation, it was pricking your finger, and you would have to prick
Uh-huh.
it like 7 times a day, sometimes even more. And now we have on our phones, like you just swipe the screen and be like, oh, that's my blood sugar. Okay.
Even pricking your finger every day, that must be not painful but irritating. Like,
It's very
ah,
irritating. I used to have like black little dots on all my fingers because of how often I would have to poke my finger.
yeah. Like, and you need to switch between fingers because you cannot prink the same finger every time, right?
Exactly. No, you can't.
That's crazy. And okay, so go back to the insurance. I don't know if you remember the Martin Shkreli incident. He's the one that raised the price of like insulin, right? That like it was used to be at the reasonable price until the right for it when okay, I need to probably need more detail on it because I can vaguely remember what happened, but the price shoot up all of a sudden, right?
I think the prices were always high. I blame big pharma. That's
Yeah.
them. I feel like they make so much money off of all these supplies that like diabetics use.
Okay. And like, how does the insurance? Because even you were saying earlier that you were anxious because between switching job, you will have been out of insurance for a little bit. And how long was that little bit? Like, how long for you is scary not to be with insurance? A month?
I mean, even a week, anything when you have like a chronic illness, like you never know
Yeah.
what's going to happen, you know?
Okay.
So for me, I luckily didn't go long without insurance at all. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I wound up like having a grace period for my old job where like
Yeah.
I had like 2 weeks of like their insurance and then like I switched over to the other job and then luckily I was on their insurance for that.
Okay.
I think I went like a 2 week period without having insurance.
Because a lot of job, it's definitely standard for them to have you at least for a month before you can sign up for the insurance, right? Like I mean, I changed job too, yeah, like the minimum is like usually you have to stay there for a month, because what what if you fire the next week? Like they don't want to, yeah.
So like, being a diabetic, like it was very scary for me, having
Hmm.
a gap in insurance because my God, like insulin prices or just going to the hospital alone, it could cost you thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like just very nerve wracking because too, my old job was basically trying to scare me into not taking the job. So they were like, oh, well, like one of our friends were bullied out of that hospital. Like, what happens if they do the same to you? And I'm like, so now I have to be worried about hating it and then also not having insurance. So I was like, don't do this to me.
Oh my God, that's not cool.
Mm.
That's really not cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like the whole insurance game is it's like very like representative of what health insurance is in America. And you know, it's crazy. Like so even with insurance, like how much is it a month for you
So
to
at
yeah.
my old job, I was
Uh-huh.
paying $100 just for my insulin prices. And then
Yeah.
for my sensors, I was spending another $100. So it was costing me about $200 a month for my supplies. At this job, luckily, I go to their diabetes and education center. So now it's costing me $0, which is absolutely amazing.
Oh my God, an extra 200 a month. That's cool.
Yeah, you're telling me. So it really worked out for me, thank God. But like I have friends that like if their insurance isn't that great, sometimes they have to like switch over like different types of insulins because the insulin is costing them too much a month. Or like sometimes they won't cover like certain diabetic supplies like test strips. So
Yeah.
depending on your type of insurance, it causes such a like stress being a diabetic
Yeah.
because now you have to be like, okay, like what can I use this year? What are they covering this year?
Oh my God, that's crazy. And you say like different type of insulin. So like there are different qualities of insulin?
Yeah, they have all different types. They have
What the
Humalog, Novolog. They have like a faster acting. I'm blanking on the name, but like there's so many different types, and like depending on your insurance, they'll be like, "Sorry, we're not covering this one this year." It's like, oh, okay, that's great.
this year? So it vary from year to year too?
Yeah. You have to, like, basically
Oh my
call
God.
your insurance company and be like, "Oh, what am I covered under this year?"
Yo, this is like a Russian roulette, basically.
Yeah, basically.
Oh my God, that's insane.
And the Ozempic that you were talking about, some
Yeah.
type 1 diabetics use it in order to bring down their insulin sensitivity. and they won't cover that under insurance because they only like qualify it for being for type 2 diabetics or weight loss.
Oh,
So that's the only hate I have towards Ozempic and also the insurance company because, like, my brother's on Ozempic and he uses it for insulin sensitivity, and he has to
uh-huh.
get it from Canada. He gets a shipment from Canada because it's cheaper there than it is here. Can you imagine?
No, it's insane because yeah, I know other people who get the medicine from Canada. Like, could you imagine getting your things shipped from Canada because, like, the American healthcare system is so horrible? Like,
Yeah.
doesn't make sense.
No, it really doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Terrible. I mean, I really think
but
it should be covered under insurance, but
but what I heard some people say, and I don't know how realistic it is because you said it like it's hard, but like, can you stockpile on insulin? Like, realistically?
uh no, because insulin goes bad after a certain amount of time. Like once it's out of the fridge, it's only good for like a month.
Okay.
So I mean, it's good for about a year, I would say, maybe 2 years. I'd have to double check, take a look, but I wouldn't
Yeah.
stockpile on insulin, because after a while, it's like you have all of this supply, and then it'll go bad after a while.
Okay. Even if you put them in the fridge,
If you put it
right?
in the fridge, it'll last you for a while, but
Okay.
not that long. Like
Because like yeah, go ahead.
like I have like long acting insulin that I usually get
Hmm.
like for when I go on vacations, and that like only lasts like about a year, So like if I'm not using it, then it just goes bad, and then it's like a waste.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of vacation, so now what is your game plan for future vacations? Have you been back on vacation since that last trip?
To be honest, no, because I've been so afraid after that trip. I don't even want to go on a vacation.
I don't blame you, girl. I don't blame you.
Yeah. But, I was going with people that didn't know me. And then, too, it's like, I don't want to like put my diabetes on them type thing. So, if anything, I would probably go on like a trip with like my family. I think that would be like a good start.
Thought, yeah.
But
Oh.
my game plan is like big. I have to get like a doctor's note so that like when I go flying, they know like it's medication. I
Yeah.
have to like call them and get like long acting insulin. God forbid my pump breaks. There's
Oh
like
my
a
God.
huge checklist that you have to go down and be like, do you have this? Do you have that?
That's nuts. Like, I understand, like, now that we're talking more in details about that trip, like, it's a game plan. Like, it's a real game plan. Like, it's not like a little, like, being for healthy people. I mean, by healthy, I mean those who don't suffer from like chronic illness like that. Making a trip is already stressful, from the point of financial and making sure you stay within a budget and that. But like, in addition of probably staying within a budget, you need to stay within a certain health range, like, because like you you don't want like your parents to fly and go get you and that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Terrible about it. I could tell you stories where my insulin pump, like I went skiing with friends and my insulin pump froze.
No way.
Yeah, like I had to like rush back to the hotel and like, put my insulin pump in like blankets to like cool it down. I was like nervous that it wasn't going to work. Thank God, again, because I have that checklist. I was like, okay, I have long acting insulin. I'll just have to take it at this time. So, I've had it where it was out in the sun for too long and I didn't know like it could overheat. So it overheated and it broke.
No way.
Sometimes you prepare for every little thing possible, but sometimes you just don't know what's going to happen.
No, that's nuts. Like, I mean, they will design. You will think that they will design those to sustain at least a ski trip, right? Or people at the beach, right? Like, it's not like you went like, I don't know, It's like you went to like the North Pole or like some places like, that's nuts. Like I don't know. It's crazy.
I call myself Cinderella sometimes. Like, the clock striking midnight and, like, turn into a pumpkin, I'm just gonna, like, turn into a bad diabetic or something. Like,
That's funny because speaking of friends and Cinderella and stuff, tell us about how you navigate now your social life, knowing with type 1 diabetes. So you told us like you're mindful of your drinking because it can mask some aspect, but what is it like for you to like go out with your friends to meet new people?
um, so to meet new people, it's not bad, I would say. Like, I usually, like, I'm
Mhm,
pretty open with my diabetes. So I would, like, tell them, "Hey, like, I'm a type 1 diabetic, like, I don't drink that much," or, I'll tell them that, like, I can't have, like, sugary mixed drinks, like,
mhm.
stick with the light beer. And what I usually do is, like, I'll have one drink and I'll hold on to it for, like, 1 or 2 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, just to, like,
yeah.
make it seem like I'm drinking, but I'm
Mhm.
really not.
Yeah, like I totally get that because do you feel like peer pressure sometimes by the group of people? I mean, with the people that you go out with, sometimes they're like, oh, let's do shots, or like they give you drinks. Does it happen, for example? That's an example right there. That somebody wants to buy you drinks and they're happy about it, and you felt bad because they spend maybe the money to get you the drink and you're taking a drink that you shouldn't. Like, is that sometime?
Um, Sometimes. I mean, I try not to fall into the peer pressure
Mm-hmm.
drinking. I mean, I honestly try to avoid people that try to push me to drink more than I want to.
Yeah.
Um, because then I feel like they don't, like, understand, like, where it is that, like, I'm coming from, or like they don't really
Mm-hmm.
understand, like, what it is to, like, have diabetes and know what it is to have to deal with that while drinking.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I try to, like, limit, like, or kinda, like, get to know, like, people before I go out with them so that, like, I know, like, I'll be okay towards the end of the night.
Yeah, because like if I were to guess, you want to be with people who will take care of you if something happens, right? Like if something were to happen.
Right. I much rather prefer that, you know?
Hmm. And do you think like people are educated enough on the subject of, diabetes? Like, do people understand like when you tell them that you're diabetic, you cannot drink as much as they do? What's people's reaction?
Um, so I feel like people are a little bit ignorant towards diabetes, because they don't really know how much goes into it.
Mhm.
I mean, everyone could, like, have a soda or have sugar in their coffee. Like, they don't think about those things. Like, for me, especially when I do go out, say, to the bar and I order, say, like, a Diet Coke with, like, vodka or whatever, like, I have to be very mindful that the guy who's making my drink doesn't put, like, regular Coca-Cola, you know?
Oh.
My blood sugar will raise in an instant.
Mhm.
Um, I kinda got off track. What was your question exactly?
Yeah, like what's people reaction when you tell them like are they educated enough when you tell them that you are diabetic? Like what's their reaction?
They kinda just, like, say, like, "Oh, like, I didn't know that. I normally get, 'You don't look like a diabetic.'" And I'm like, "What is a diabetic supposed to look like?"
What the fuck?
Yeah,
Okay, sorry.
no, it's okay, So, I mean, that's usually the response that I get.
Hey, by the way, Amanda is very good looking, so probably they're like, oh, like good looking girls are not supposed to be diabetic. That's probably what they think, like.
Thanks, Manny, I appreciate that.
So that's my only guess because I don't know, like, okay, so because the portrayal of diabetics in movies or so, like always people with glasses, nerdic, who barely have breath, but nobody who is fit like you, who kick ass, like, it's rare. Like, I mean, they don't portray diabetes like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The best way they portrayed diabetes, I feel like, was in the movie Purple Hearts. I don't know if you've
I
seen it,
don't.
where the girl was like,
No.
"Oh my god," she had no insurance and she, like, wound up marrying a military man so that she would have insurance.
Oh no, I haven't watched that
Oh, you
movie.
have to
Purple
watch
Heart.
it, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was
All
making
right.
fun of it a little bit because, like, the insulin, like, needles that she had and, like, the insulin vial, I'm like, "That's not an insulin vial." I'm like, "Come on, make it more real." But for everyone else, like, they don't know it, so
Yeah, exactly. When people don't know it, that's definitely but that's funny. So like what I wanted to say. Yeah, to go back to the gym aspect of it. What does the gym brings to you like when you go there like because you say like it brings you calm for your anxiety stuff like,
yeah, it really does. Like, it brings me kind of like a sense of peace, you know? Like, if
Mhm,
my brain is just like overwired and overstimulated and like I can't shut it off, like the second I go to the gym and I start doing a workout, like I feel like it like brings me to that like present moment in time.
mhm. No, it does. Like, and like that's what kickboxing does to me. And that's also what I wanted you on the podcast because I noticed that I got that vibe from you that like you were there to try to get into a flow state, a state where like you at peace. Yeah, I like what you say. The word being at peace is very it's I think a good description of it. Is there and also you know uh I guess the endorphins and the dopamine that comes to with it. Like I really feel great when I go to the gym and
Mhm.
I work out. It's definitely a part of my sobriety, my recovery.
Right.
Um yeah. Um what other coping mechanism you have? Like, you told me like sometimes you suffer from anxiety. So like what else do you do? Like when things are not going in your way necessarily.
I'll try to like listen to music, relaxing music, or
Mm.
I really enjoy journaling, putting my thoughts on paper.
Hell yeah, journaling here too.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I journal all the time.
I tried meditation, but
Hmm.
I don't really, I don't know. I can't really get into meditation that much, unfortunately.
I, I meditate every day. Like I love yeah, I love it. Like I meditate 10 minutes in average. I could go longer, but I think 10 minutes is the right spot. I use the app Calm.
Hmm.
Like yeah,
Me about that. Check
yeah,
it out a little bit. I did like it, but like, I would just fall off. I don't know why. Like I couldn't just like stick to it.
yeah. I feel you. All right. So yeah, we're reaching the end of this interview. Do you have any question for me before I give the mic back to my audience? Yeah.
I can't think of any questions right now, Benny.
That's fine. You are such a great guest. I mean, it flows. And also, like, this is definitely one of the interviews where I learned the most about diabetes because I was ignorant myself too. For me, diabetes was, especially type 1, was just low blood sugar. You need to shoot yourself with insulin and then you fine. Boom. I had no idea, for example, that you needed to be between a range.
Yeah.
Like,
Don't
like,
give insulin when you're low, you actually treat with juice.
wait, when you low, you drink juice?
Yeah.
And okay, so what do you take insulin for?
So insulin is for high blood sugar. So
Oh,
like insulin
you see
when
that?
I eat, I have to take insulin and when my blood sugar is high.
Yo, that I'm so glad I made this episode because it makes more sense. Like I was very ignorant about the whole situation with, you know, like diabetes. I mean, before I didn't even know which one was which. I didn't know which one was type 1. I didn't know which one was type 2
Yeah.
until I met you who is very knowledgeable on but it's crazy because I guess like we don't. Let's ask another question before we leave. What do you think is your perception of diabetes now in the world? Like when you say like you personally, your social life, you wear your condition, you basically tell you're pretty forward with it. But what's your perception of how the world see people with diabetes usually? Because
Um,
I'm gonna tell you what I used to how yeah.
so my perception is, everyone loves to make diabetic jokes, like everyone will be like, oh, if I eat this candy bar, I'm gonna get diabetes. Or they always associate sugar with diabetes.
Yes.
They're not
Okay.
technically wrong, but you're not
Uh-huh.
gonna like get diabetes by eating a chocolate bar. And you're not always gonna get type 2 diabetes being overweight. Sometimes it's just in the genes.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, like my perception is that people they have a little bit of knowledge, but they don't have much of any knowledge about what really goes into it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I like to be like upfront and like forward with my diabetes, because I like to educate people on what it is that I have to go through day to day basis.
Yeah, and like like what you said about even like some like benign trips like going skiing or going like I don't know, South Beach, Florida on the sun and worrying about if you're pumping, like that's something that I could not have imagined until you tell me. Like it didn't cross my mind. For me, like there was like I didn't know there was so much that could happen in the way of you getting your medication, even if assuming that you have it like from the insurance. There are like so many so basically we have this long chain and made of like several links, and each link will break the chain of you getting healthy. And that's scary. Like I could and thank you for educating us on that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have so many stories. It's like unbelievable. If I want to go for a hike, I have to prepare that for my diabetes. I have to make sure like I have plenty of snacks, juice just in case I go low. Like I went hiking in Colorado, so I was like, okay, the heat is going to dehydrate me. So I have to make sure that like I'm drinking enough water so that my blood sugar app reads correctly. And then I was just like, I have to like bring a second form to test my blood sugar just in case like I get too dehydrated so that I know like my real blood sugar. Like there's so much that goes into it.
That's nuts. That's
Yeah.
you I'm up like, I would just stay my ass home. Like, I would just like stay at home and not move. Like, I'm like, this is too complicated for me. Thank God. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's why it's
But
detrimental with drinking, and that's why I really don't like drinking because,
I,
it really does, like, mask so many different things drinking. And then too,
mhm.
it's just like, you know, who wants to say something when they're drunk and then wake up in the morning and be like, "Oh my god," like, on
Yeah.
diabetes portion and everything, so
Oh man. But yeah, all right, all right. Thank you, Amanda, very much for being a guest on Stairway to Redemption. Cannot wait to release this episode. It's definitely going to be a refreshing episode to know what because being it's not only people who are in recovery that have to stop drinking. We have also people with pre-existing conditions that are need to be mindful of their drinking, and it's always good to have like to see what are the overlaps or the differences into our approach to change our relationship with alcohol, and that's very insightful.
yeah.
All right, thank you, Amanda, and I will see you guys for the conclusion. Bye.
Alright.
All right. Thank you very much. Big thank you to Amanda for being the guest for episode 50. Wow, we made 50 of those. Episode 50 of Stairway to Redemption. Yeah, thank you for bringing the clarity on what diabetes is, especially type 1 diabetes. Yeah, I learned a lot in this episode. Oh wow, like I didn't know enough. I think I had probably some misconception. I don't think so, but I didn't know enough. Definitely thank you. All right, guys. I posted on IG that the next episode will be a live Q&A to celebrate my 1 year anniversary. I would like to thank you guys for being along in my journey. Yeah, so it's gonna be March 10th at 3 p.m. On IG, and you can send your question ahead at stairwaytoredemptionpodcast@gmail.com. If you follow us on IG, you're gonna see the post. All right, guys, I will see you next week. Bye.